Hi there. So you want to change the strings in your classical guitar, or maybe you want to figure out the best way to do it, and that's what I'm going to do today. So we've got one here. This is a good example of what you don't want it to look like. It's got strings flopping all over on the soundboard, and I'm going to show you how to not do that and get a nice wind up here. So you really don't need much, something to cut the strings with. I have this little double tool. It's a cutter and a winder. But if you don't have that, you can go with just a regular winder. And if you don't have one of those, then I'd recommend getting one. Pretty cheap. Some strings, obviously. I got some D'Addarios here. Kind of middle of the road strings. You can get different kinds of strings. You can get these ones called fluorocarbon. And I don't really have much experience with them, but apparently they're a little bit brighter sounding and there might be some advantages to them. But typically, I just go with the regular nylon strings, and there's only really one difference that you need to know about the fluorocarbon strings is how you wind it on the part here, which is called the tie block. So let's get started. First thing you want to do is use your string winder to take off the strings. Now normally, I like to hang my guitar over the edge for classical guitars, but just for the sake of showing you, even though you can't actually see it, okay, whatever. So I'm going to take my string off. And I'm going to use the cutter because it's just what I do. I mean, there's really no point in saving that. Like, unless you're planning on setting up some kind of apocalypse bunker, then you probably just want to cut it. So I better change my camera angle. I'll show you what I do here. All right, so I got my string here, and I just wanted to show you the difference between the two ends. So this end here in my right hand is the same as the rest of the string. This end has a little bit more of a wider spacing on the winds, so it gives it a bit more flexibility, which you should be able to feel if you can't see it. Now, what you got to do is stick it through this hole here, feed it through, and you can kind of just follow the rule of thumb about the size of your thumb, or you can sort of see where that flexible part starts. That'll work for this string at least anyway. So I'll wrap it around and wrap it around. So I'm going this way, and then I'm wrapping it around this way. Okay. Now you have to get this part of the string through here, and you want it to go below the cliff edge here. So the good way to do that is I always want to maintain pressure on here, so I have this finger on there right now on my left hand. Right hand, push this out a little bit, which gives you a little bit of a loophole. And if it's really finicky for you, you can put a little bend in there, which I've already done. And then feed it through there, a little bit back. And then what I like to do is I just put my finger there, because that's going to maintain the pressure, which will allow it to stay below this edge here, because you want it to maintain the tie, which is maybe why it's called the tie block, below this edge. And then you pull this tight. Sometimes you have to fiddle around with it a little bit, but basically what you want is you want this, the part where it intersects with this, to be below the edge. That's all that matters. Not like this. Now the only time that you would do this is for the upper strings here, the G string, the B, and the E, or if you're doing fluorocarbon strings, then you might want to do that with the D string, just because they can be a little bit more slippery. Now I'll change my camera, go up to the headstock. So I've obviously taken the old string off here and ready to put the new one on. So I'm going to show you two different ways to do it. So one way is what I feel like is the easiest way, and it's the way that I always do it now, and you can sort of judge for yourself. I'll show you this way, and then I'll show you the more traditional way that I learned to do it when I was studying classical guitar in university. But yeah, I find this method just to be easier, and it does kind of save you from tuning a little bit. So first thing you're going to do is just set this so that it's on a slight angle, feed this through, And then you can kind of just pull it so it's not, you're not yanking on it, you're just holding it tight. All right, and then what I do, hold it there with my right hand, and with my left hand I'm going to loop it up, making sure not to go this way, because then you're going to tie it around the other string. So you can see I'm maintaining just very light pressure in this hand. I put it down and then up. Now, the direction of the wind depends on your guitar. For this one, I'm going to wind it this way. Now, a lot of the time I wind the E string this way, on this side of the hole, but this one kind of seems like the hole's a little bit too close to this side, and you really don't want it to touch this edge, so I'm going to go this way. And you can just judge that based on your guitar. There's not necessarily a right or wrong way. So since I want the wind to go this way, I want the string end to go this way. So that means I'm going to have to cross it like that, so it's in front of this. Push it through. Okay, you can see that hopefully. And then pinch it at the tie there, grab that end that's flopping around and put it through this way. Okay, I'll show you that again. So, pinch it with your right hand. So, this is free. And I want this to go this way, so I'm going to go from the opposite way. Okay, and then just wrestle with that string until you get it so it's like that. The very first knot that you use to tie your shoe, if that helps. It's very simple. Now, the reason when you know it's right is when you pull up on this with your right hand and it tightens. Now, this E string can be a little bit hard to tighten. You don't want to pull on it too hard. You want to be gentle with it because you don't want to put too big of a kink in there. But basically, if you pull up on the string with your right hand and it tightens, then it's right. So right now, I can pull as hard as I want, and that string is not going to go anywhere. And this is what's helpful for tuning, for one. And the other reason it's helpful is that the exact length at which I'm pulling it this way will give me the perfect wind once I start winding it up. So I'll sort of show you what I mean. Now, I'll show you my right hand technique here. Sorry for the shake. So I'm going to cup my 3 fingers down like that. So I'm sort of cradling the string there. And then I'm going to pinch it with my finger or pinch it between this, and then I can use my finger, depending on which stage I'm at. Anyway, that's the general technique. So I've got it pinched using my finger as a sort of a winding apparatus here. I don't really like this winder actually. I'm going to go with my classic. So wind this up, and you kind of use your finger as a, it'd be funny to do in front of a camera. So you kind of use your finger as a way to guide it. So right now, it's a little bit hard actually, because the way that they wound this string before makes it a little bit difficult actually, because it's in the way. So I'm going to have to do something a little bit funny here. Normally I would want it to be right beside the wind, but I'm going to go like this. I'm going to let it wind once, and then I'm going to tighten it up, which you can do. Hopefully you can see that there. So right now my finger's still guiding it, and I've sort of had to work around this funky job here that someone else has done. Get my finger out of there. But basically you just want to use your finger to make sure that the wind is right beside itself. And then eventually you get to a certain point where it's going to be tight enough that you can let go and plop it into this slot there. So you can see with that method of doing it, you get a nice perfect wind, and you want between 3 to 5 winds on the block, or on the post, sorry. So that's a good wind, and that's why I like this method. It's the easiest and you know that you're going to get a good wind. There's no questioning about it. But just to be fair, I will show you the other method. So for this A string, I will show you the more traditional way of doing it. So you're going to go over top of the post and hold it with your right hand, and then you're going to find that hole from underneath to go up. So pull it up loosely. So right now I'm behind the string, and that's just is going to change depending on which way you want the wind to go. So I want the wind to go that way. So that's why I went this way. So that way I can go. It's kind of annoying this way. So I'm going to go from behind, and then I'm going to go back down through the hole. Like that. Back down through. And you kind of want about the same distance, which I think that might be a little bit short, but you know, about, if you measured it on your finger, it's just past my first knuckle. So tighten that up, not extremely tight enough to hold it, and then yeah, that will hold your string in place, so it's not actually going to move, and it does look a little bit nicer, which is, I think, the reason that it's a more traditional way to do it. And then yeah, again, you're just sort of guiding the wind until it is wound up. And you do want one more wind would be better, between 3 to 5, and 4 is ideal, I would say. This one gave me 3, so that's why I like the other way, because it's really easy to know exactly how much you're going to wind it. But that'll do. So for the D string here, I'll just go through the process again, and I'll show you the little trick to deal with this. If you're more traditionally minded and you want it to look that way, then this is what you're going to do. When I'm doing it, I just cut it off to make it look like that. I really don't worry about it. So same thing, you're following that step, folding it underneath, pinch it, fold it again, move your finger over the cliff, fold that way, so it gives you easy fold to work with. Push this back, and then this is where you would, put that through, and then you're going to put this through next, and then hold them down below with your finger or your thumb, whatever you want. Sometimes you have to pinch it, pull it, pinch it again, and then that way this is tied out of the way, and it's not going to be vibrating against there. It looks a little bit nicer. And then you would just do the same thing with the G string. So the only difference for the G string here is that you have to give it one extra wind. So I like to give myself a bit more room with these ones, just because sometimes they can be really annoying. Same procedure. Okay, so I'm going behind, and I'm going underneath. Okay, can you see that? Behind and underneath, and then I'm going behind, I'm going over and under again. So you're always ending with an under, and then you want to, same thing, make that. So that's going to tie into the next one, and then you just have that extra loop there, but still the loose end is still underneath, below the cliff. That's the only difference. So I should have mentioned that as I go, I typically tune each string up, so that'll just help with the stretching process, because it does take some time to get it to stay in tune. So what I do to help with that is I'll put my left hand on the string, my right hand underneath, pull up, work my way down, and really stretch it out, because it can be really annoying when you want to, you know, sit down and play some Bach, and then all of a sudden you got to tune 30 times, especially these upper strings because they're just plastic, they don't have any metal on them. But do it with all the strings, up and down. Okay, you get the idea, and then you want to tune it up. See that A string stretched a little bit more. And then you can tune it up, and now's a good time. You want to practice your flamenco guitar. You can really get your aggression out on this classical guitar. You know, or you do your blues bends on your classical. But I like to do this is the only time I really practice flamenco. And obviously, even just that, put it out of tune. So it really takes some time. But if you do the stretching, then it will really speed up the process. There you have it. So hopefully that was helpful, and you learned something, a thing or two or three, and leave some comments below, and I will see you next week.